All right, hello. So my name is Sam, and about a week ago, I actually sold my first seven-figure business at 24 years old. So I actually wanted to shoot this video right on the day off, but as you probably know, we did a little bit of celebrating, and now it's finally like the right time where I'm finally like more chilled out, and I'm really excited to basically shoot this video. Now, basically what I wanted to discuss in this video is a couple things: how I sold the company, what happened prior to me selling the company, why I got that urge to sell the company, and how I did all of this basically within a 3-month time span. And the funny thing is, this all kind of happened by accident and nothing really was like planned, right? So I'll basically discuss all of that in this video. So just to give you a brief background story, I basically started this company in, I think it was like March 2020. I actually fully registered this company in Amsterdam, Holland, right? Because that's where I grew up. And by the time, that's where I was going to college to basically study business analytics. Now, I hated studying, right? I didn't want to be in school, but my parents really wanted me to have a degree because they're always like, you never know when you're actually going to need it, which is half true, right? Now, the reason why I kind of like started this company, the first thing how I got in touch with SMMA is actually through Ty Lopez, right? I saw like a $20 course on SMMA and how to start one. I basically bought it, learned a little bit from it, but not much, right? Started working with clients for free, but I didn't know how to get any results. Then I actually hired this other mentor that I just found in a random Facebook group, and he knew everything about real estate marketing, right? And I was like, oh, okay, shit, well, I'll basically hire him to make it happen. However, he was charging $2,500, so I first said no because I didn't have the money. So I found a way to get the money. It was actually through student loans, right? And I got a credit card, and I basically put everything on a credit card in 3 installments. I remember it very good. It was $733 a month for 3 months, approximately. I think, yeah, something around that ballpark. And basically, like 2 months in, after March, I actually didn't have the money to pay off the credit card, right? And I just wasn't seeing the results from the program. And I was like this close to actually disputing the two charges. I was actually so close to disputing those charges that I actually called up the bank, right? And I didn't have the money and I didn't see the results and everything. And they literally told me, they were like, yeah, it's not a valid reason for you to dispute this. And I'm so happy that that happened because literally 4 months after that, I actually made my first 10K month. And like another 3 months after that, I made my first 10K day, which is where I basically bought this watch right here. It was like a Rolex Submariner no date. So basically like a 2020 model. So that same year, it was like a brand new model that basically just got out. So very happy. Like you could imagine the relief that I had. And this was everything I ever wanted. However, I was still in college at that time. Like I was basically in my like last year after the summer of like 2020, I was going into my third year. And as you could imagine, like making $10,000 in a day, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in a month, you could imagine that at this point I wanted to drop out. However, my parents would have probably disowned me if I did drop out. So I just stayed. And because there was COVID and all the lockdowns, I was actually able to do most of the classes online, right? And because it was done online, it was a lot easier to pass those classes, if you know what I'm saying. So basically like another year passed. I just banked a lot of money while I was in college, but I was also spending a lot of money because during that time I was also traveling a lot. And because all the classes were online, I could just do it from wherever I want. So I went to places such as like Houston, Tulum, Colombia, Monaco, Italy, Greece, all in that time frame. And I was spending a lot of money. And while I was spending all that money, I wasn't really fully aware of like the taxes in the Netherlands and how high they could be. So I actually didn't end up with much left after the first initial years, because I was spending on a lot of like stupid stuff, like 50K on watches there, like 20K on a vacation there, and it goes pretty quickly. And then you basically have to give half of your taxes to the Dutch government. So I've paid multiple 6 figures in taxes in Holland, and I had no idea, right? I just wasn't fully aware of that. To a point where I believe it was 2022, end of 2022, I finally made the move to Dubai, right? Just because of the taxes and also because I just wasn't fully aligned with Holland and what they were doing, their politics and everything else. So I just kind of like left and moved to Dubai. And from there on, everything was a lot easier just because I didn't have to pay taxes. So I could now spend more money, right? Which was a big relief. And you're probably wondering, like, hey, why didn't I do the Dubai setup 2 years earlier, right? And the main reason is because my accountant was super old school, and he was telling me all these things about how, like, putting me in Dubai and, like, moving out there could put me on the blacklist with, like, the tax authorities and all this other BS, right? So I consulted with a lot of people before I made the move, right? And he was just simply wrong. So if you're thinking about moving to Dubai or anything else, like, just hit me up in the comments and I'll see how I can help you out. Because if I kept listening to him, I would have stayed in Holland and I would have gotten absolutely smashed with taxes, right? And I would have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not even millions of dollars in taxes. Now the thing is that I was traveling a lot. I just got my degree. I moved to Dubai. I was making a shit ton of money. You're probably wondering, like, how do I even have time to spend anything on the business? And fortunately, I always had the right people around me to help me with my company. Like, I was always very good at hiring the right people, simply because I was just extremely lazy. A lot of my friends that know me, they actually know that, and they always ask, like, Sam, like, what do you do during the day? Because they never see me work, right? And because, like, I'm either in my bed on my laptop, or I'm just, like, outside, like, working out or getting the ice bath or doing some activity, right? Maybe, like, today, for example, it's Thursday. We're actually going into the jungle to this resort because we got invited there, right? And the main reason is because I rather spend a little bit more money on a great team, right, that can push the company beyond me, than me having to work my ass off. And one other example is, like, I'm super lazy. Like, so I bought this huge bottle because I just wasn't drinking enough water, right? Because I hate, like, refilling cups all the time and refilling small bottles. And this bottle even tells me, like, when I have to drink and how far I have to be, right? And that's just, like, another example of how I do certain things. Now, as I was traveling the world, like, we were going everywhere. We were doing, like, Tulum, Colombia, Brazil, South Africa. One day, like, I just decided to go to Japan and book the flight for the next day. Dubai, of course, all of Europe, some other parts of Asia that we're about to go to, and more. I kind of, like, started to settle base, as well as in Dubai, of course, in Colombia as well, which is where I'm actually filming this from right now. This is basically, like, our rooftop. Here in Colombia, I live with, like, 2 and 3 of my best friends here in this beautiful penthouse that we barely pay anything for. It has this absolutely amazing view from Medellin, Colombia. And it's basically, like, our second home, right? Like, we also have basically a house in Dubai. Now, the thing is, this wasn't all easy, right? Like, sometimes we almost had, like, burnouts. I was exhausted a lot of times because, like, there's always fires to put out. And the thing is, with scaling a company, there's always another problem that occurs, right? There's always another problem that occurs, or a ceiling that you're going to hit. And you're like, shit, how do I break through that ceiling? It's by hiring another mentor, another coach, another this, another that, another that, blah, 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 blah. And after doing this for many years, you could probably imagine, like, this could get exhausting, right? And that's why I eventually even hired a CEO. I was like, shit, like, how do I just get completely out of this thing and still have it grow without me? Because I could maintain it and work very minimal hours, but I wanted it to grow, right? And to find a person like that is very hard, but I eventually did so about 8 months ago. And around that same time, I started also developing, like, a passion for music, right? So I started, like, DJing, which we actually had a couple shows in the past weekend with Sper and Barbosa, really big in the Afro house scene. You probably know them from Keine Muziek. And we started basically doing a lot of big shows since, like, 8 months ago as well. So at that same time that I hired that CEO. And while we were doing those shows, we also saw a huge gap in the market, which is that there's no, like, real app ticket selling platform here in Colombia to buy and sell tickets. So that basically became our new venture about 8 months ago, and we're actually launching this app next week as I'm basically making this video. Maybe when this video already goes out, it's probably already live. We're going to basically call it Sonic. Now, once I basically got that CEO and I got the whole team in place and the company could basically run completely without me and even grow, I was like, oh shit, what do I do next, right? So I started, like, making music all day and kind of just see what I really like doing, right? And it started just leaning more towards music. up until a point, like right before the summer, which was about probably 4 to 6 months ago at this point, because right now we're filming this in, I think it's September. Yeah, it's September right now. I got a call from a friend. His name is Aiden. Shout out to Aiden, by the way. And he basically told me like, yo, Sam, I got this guy. He wanted to buy my company, but my company's, I don't think it's ready to sell yet. But I think yours is. And I thought it wasn't serious. I thought the guy that he introduced me to was like a private equity firm in New York. Wasn't really that serious. So I actually just like brushed it off for a couple months, and I didn't entertain like any calls whatsoever with this guy. Up until a point where I was at my friend's Graydon's cottage in Canada, and I was like, and there was just so many fires, like there's always like things that they wanted me to be involved. Even though I didn't have to be involved, I always felt like I had to be somewhat involved because it's my company. It just took some mental space, right? And I was like leaning so much towards like my passion, music, and some other things that I was like, shit, maybe I should entertain this call. And so I hopped on a call with both Aiden and the private equity firm, and I showed him some of the books, and a week later we basically had a full offer. Now there was a lot of negotiation during, like, between having the offer and closing, right? Because a lot of things came up. Like before closing, they wanted to see this, they wanted to get access to that. All in all, it was a lot of negotiation, right? And it's not easy to negotiate with like a private equity firm that has done this 1,000 times, and I have not. This was my first company sale, and this is basically like my little baby, right? Even to a point where I actually got this tattooed on my arm. It was somewhere online when it was basically the company that we sold. That was like the logo. And yeah, it wasn't easy, right? Because it's basically like letting go of your first baby, basically the thing that you've built all the way from the ground up. And at the same time, I wasn't sure if this guy was serious until the wire actually hit, right? Which was about a week ago. Now, once the wire hit and the deal was done, I almost felt like a certain sense of relief. But at the same time, I was like, not much changed. Like, I still want to build stuff. I still want to do stuff because that's where I get fulfillment from, is building, right? Because I honestly believe, like, if you sell your company and you're just going to do nothing with your life, you're going to become extremely miserable. And I know a lot of like very successful people that sold their company and they got like very depressed afterwards. And you're probably wondering like, how could you get depressed if you sell for a couple $100,000, even if not millions of dollars, and you're basically like set forever? Like, why? How could you be depressed, right? And basically, that's kind of like where I'm at right now, is where I'm like actually building something bigger than what I've basically built before. That's like my goal, so that I don't get into that like rabbit hole. And when that wire hit, I told all my family, all my friends, literally everyone, because I actually kept the deal quiet until it was fully closed. Like with big deals like this, don't even tell anyone. It could be like bad energy, right? And the big deal could fall through. So I kept it secret until the wire actually hit. And I told everyone, and it was a great moment. Like we just finished celebrating this in here in Medellin, it's Salon Amador. We had a show there, and then we had another show in Bogota, right? So the DJing also like really started taking off that same weekend, and we started getting some really, really big shows, which was super, super dope. So it was a very seamless transition. Now, one thing that you could pick up from this, or maybe it's actually a couple things, is first of all, make sure your company is sellable, right? Because you never know what's going to happen, and you never know when things are going to take a turn, and maybe you would just want to do something else, right? The thing is, when you make your company sellable, it's gonna get bigger than you, right? You're setting your company up to be bigger than you because you're basically focusing on hiring the right people that can take it way further than you think you can. Now, second is like when you're doing that, just know that like, hey, scaling comes with sacrifices, right? Like every time you're gonna hit a certain ceiling, you have to find out how can we break through that ceiling. What hires do I have to make? What maybe coaches do I have to hire, or consultants do I have to hire in order to basically break through the problem that I'm seeing right now within my business? Put the ego aside and just hire the right people. Like hire quick. I think no, it's hire slow, fire fast. That's what we used to do a lot within our company. And again, if you hire the right team members, it can get way bigger than you, and eventually you'll walk away with actually a lot more money in the end. Not in the beginning because you have to invest in those people, but long term, you always make more money, right? Because now your company's making more money and you can actually sell it for more money as well. Plus, you actually have a real asset, which is a team and a product that's super solid and that keeps evolving whether you're there or not. In my opinion, this like first sale was just the beginning of something bigger, right? Like I'm not looking to stop. I'm not looking to like let my foot go off the gas pedal. I'm fully aware that I can build a similar business within a couple days and make it extremely successful. And that's the beauty about entrepreneurship, right? Is that you can just like build these assets that are just in the cloud and make it really big and just like sell them, right? And do it over again. Or maybe do it in like a different niche, a different industry. But at least you got that skill set that's up here, which is something that cannot be sold or cannot be taken from you. So, I mean, that was basically it that I had for this video. Like, there were a lot of highs, a lot of lows. All in all, it's been like an insanely amazing journey, and I can't wait for what's next, honestly. I'm basically filming this from my dream house here in Colombia. We're about to go to Dubai here next month again, and about to travel a little bit of Asia. And I just can't wait for what's to come, especially with like the music career as well and the app that we're producing. And basically, like, if you have any questions about like outsourcing the right things in your company, hiring the right people, and just like removing yourself, having that more so like freedom, or maybe even just like exiting your company, just put them down in the comments below. I'll basically just try to respond to every single comment. And yeah, leave a like, subscribe, comment, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video. Peace, and thank you for watching my first video on this channel.